Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Unfortunately, I don't have time for a countdown today. This is a terrible video that I'm bringing you guys just for the fun of it. I'm sitting in my room right now just talking to myself because I'm studying for my econ midterm that is tomorrow. And this stuff just sounds like total gibberish if I had no idea what it was. So I thought it would be kind of funny for you guys to listen to me trying to study and trying to remember all this stuff. I have 3 chapters that I have to go through that are all very difficult for my midterm tomorrow. They're on... This is, like I said, I think, my macroeconomics class. I go to Cal State Fullerton, if you guys don't know that. But, so here we go. I'm just going to try and run through this pretty quick, because this is how it helps me study, is when I teach myself something. Or I'll pretend somebody's here and I'll teach it to them. It might sound lame, but it really actually does help me out quite a bit. So, yeah, I thought, why not I record this? It might be kind of embarrassing. I might take this down. I don't know, but here we go. So first is Chapter 9, Demand Side Equilibrium, Unemployment or Inflation. Basically what this is talking about is we have the demand side of macroeconomic economy is called aggregate demand. Versus microeconomics, that's just called demand. But in a macroeconomic sense, it's called aggregate demand. Aggregate demand is basically your expenditure function. Expenditure function considers... blah 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 is C plus I plus G plus X minus IM, which is consumers spending, which is all of you guys and everybody who just buys stuff, whether it's a company or actually company might be more investment, but if a person buys something at a store or whatever, that's considered consumption, consumer spending. That is generally 2/3 or more of our aggregate demand curve. And then investments, which come from people saving up their money, because you get a disposable income, which is after the governments take your taxes, you have a disposable income of a certain amount. Say they take a 20% tax, then you have a 0.8 or 80% of your money left to spend on disposable income. Normally in America, we spend 90% of it and we save 10% of it. The 10% that we save actually goes into investment spending. Eventually, you know, this isn't something that happens instantaneously, but for the sake of the chapter, they do make it seem instantaneous, and they do also use these tables that are totally unrealistic, and they make it seem like this stuff's so easy when it really is totally variables, and this is a social science, so there really shouldn't be so simple a way to put it. But you got C, I, and then G is government spending, considering, you know, government jobs, whatever they spend on their money on, whether it's road work or whatever they do, and then net exports, which is our imports minus our exports, money-wise. So if you sell more things to other countries versus buying things from other countries, you know, then that would be positive, because you would sell more, you make more money from other countries than you're buying from other countries. It's money-wise, not export-wise. That is basically what aggregate demand is, and it gets to an equilibrium because, yeah, I'm not going to fucking explain that. I already know it, and you guys probably have no idea what the hell I'm talking about. So, expenditure schedule, that, like I said, is C plus I plus G, X minus IM. It's pretty simple now. I've been going over it so many times in my head. So there's 2 different types of investment. There's induced investment, which is basically just an increase on these tables here, which you guys can't see. Sucks for you. Ha ha ha. Maybe when you go to college you can buy this $180 book, which is fucking ridiculous. You guys can see this table. It's really nothing special. But when this thing goes up, when output versus spending goes up, then that is basically just a simple induced investment versus, what is the other one called? I don't remember. Maybe I'll come across it later. I know all this. Income expenditure diagram, that's basically real spending versus disposable income. Like I said earlier, you have a certain disposable income versus whether it's versus how much you save, and after your initial tax deduction, that's how much your disposable income is. Your disposable income is never you never have the same amount spent on saving versus how much you spend, because, you know, the average person in America saves about 10%. They spend 90%, like I said, which is, you know, kind of ridiculous, but whatever. Equilibrium and full employment. So basically we have potential GDP, which is if we had full employment, if everybody was working at all the jobs that are available, to produce as much as we can, everybody was buying everything that was being produced, we would have a nice, wonderful economy. But no, everybody wants to save their money because they're all scared of the economy, which ends up putting us in a recessionary gap, which is what we are currently in. And in this example, we have a recessionary gap here. Real spending is lower than what potential spending is. That is in a recessionary gap. We're underproducing what we could be producing. We actually lose trillions. By the side note, we lose trillions of dollars each year because people aren't spending what they should be, yada yada. But what can you do? People are irrational. Economics is based off of people being rational. Well, guess what? People ain't fucking rational. So this is kind of all a waste of time. But hey, guess what? I'm an economics major, so I'm kind of wasting my time. But hey, we'll see. I think this stuff's pretty interesting. It's all basic ideas that kind of make sense. I'm getting off on a tangent, and now I'm just losing more time. I haven't even gotten through the first chapter yet. There's 3 chapters. This is the easiest chapter, is the first one. Oh gosh, here we go. Okay, recessionary gap. Then inflationary gap is basically the other side, which is what we had before during the housing boom. We have basically a equilibrium GDP, and when we are overproducing, that's what was happening during the housing boom during about 2006. People are buying all these houses when nobody can even afford it. And so more people are building houses, all this money is being spent on capital, more people are paying construction workers to build more houses. Because of all this housing boom, everybody's buying houses. Houses are going to go up forever. Guess what? They don't. And then it crashes, everybody gets fucked because we went over our potential GDP. And the easiest way to get back our recessionary gap is somehow, I don't know, it's in my notes somewhere. So then we have the multiplier. Basically, the multiplier is what we talked about the next 2 chapters, but it's got a quick segment in here. Multiplier is how much. So say I spend $50 at a store. Let's say I spend $50 at Ralph's. That $50, that company pays to their employees and they save some of it. So let's say they pay their employees 90% of it. I have no idea what that is. Let's just say it's 45. I think that's 45. You pay 45 to your workers, and you save $5. So that $45 is now being able to be spent, and those workers go and to another store and spend those $45. 10% of it gets saved. I don't know what that is. Say $40. That $40, those workers go out and buy, and see how it ends up being, you pay $50 for something, but it keeps going through the economy like that. That's called the multiplier, which actually increases our GDP by more than we think. So you spend $50, it actually turns out that you spend $250 towards GDP, which is what GDP is basically like, what makes our economy look so good versus other countries. China is just spending trillions of dollars on fuck it. There's a pretty interesting video about that. If you guys ever want to see that, I might be able to find it. But I doubt you guys are even watching this long, and if you are, congratulations, you don't understand economics. So yeah, that's the multiplier. And turns out multiplier gets reduced when you can shift price levels. For the sake of the book, they don't shift anything. It's all based off of constant things that don't change, which is total bullshit because that doesn't happen in the real world. So the multiplier is kind of total bullshit, but it's basically the change in the amount of GDP versus the amount of what the hell is income? I don't think so, because that was in a few chapters ago, and you're not even listening to this anyway, so it doesn't matter. But 1 over 1 minus MPC. MPC also can be done MPC out of GDP, which takes into account for taxes. When you take into account for taxes, then that is much more accurate. And then when you just take the straight slope, that's the most accurate because you're basically just going straight with the change. Definitely the easiest thing to do. So yeah, autonomous increase. That is what you use for the multiplier. The multiplier is only affected by an autonomous increase in consumption, not an induced increase in consumption. An induced increase in consumption is when you increase the consumer spending that stems from an increase in consumer income. So if you increase your income, you basically have more money to spend. So that doesn't actually affect GDP that much because you're increasing your income and then you're increasing your spending. It doesn't make any sense that way. If you increase an autonomous increase in GDP, basically that means like an external thing. So basically if your grandma dies and you get $10,000 more, you're going to go out and spend more money because you have more money. So you're going to go, thank you grandma for your money, and I'm sorry you're dead, but now that's creating more wealth for the economy because that's an autonomous change. So you increase investments. Say you spend $10,000 on investing in a new building for a company and blah, blah, blah. That is an autonomous change for the economy. That can be done with the multiplier. So say the multiplier is 4, you spend $10,000, you actually get $40,000. Alright guys, I just noticed that I ran out of time a while back, and I just kept on talking like a dumbass. So if you enjoyed this video, tell me, because there's no way I'm going to be posting more of these if you guys don't want to. I'm not trying to comment horror or anything, but just saying, you know, I don't want to waste your time, and I don't want to waste my time. So if you guys found this entertaining, though, listen to me talk real fast and trying to teach economics to somebody, then whoop-de-doo. Man, thanks for watching.